life strategist and a divine health coach, meaning that I have two very important prongs to my main mission in life. I work with women to establish their first, with the first prong, the divine life strategist prong. I work with women to establish their divine purpose so that they can fulfill their life mission. And the second prong is a divine health coach. They're both related, but divine health is about being in excellent physical condition, possessing a sound mind, and experiencing spiritual balance at any age. And I work with women of African descent, no matter where they are throughout the diaspora, to get towards achieving a state of divine health so that they can fulfill their divine purpose. Because oftentimes, without a fully operative body, a fully operative mind, and a balanced spirit, that's the biggest obstacle to achieving your purpose and fulfillment in life.
So without that balance. Okay, so before we dive in, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like, where did you grow up? Are you from a large family? Like, what state are you in right now? Is that where you grew up? Is your business strictly online, or is it online as well as do you have a physical location?
Well, I am living in Bowie, Maryland right now. I grew up in Silver Spring and in Hyattsville, Maryland predominantly. I lived in New York briefly throughout my childhood. So I spent the majority of my life in the Maryland, DC area, particularly Maryland. I went to Montgomery Blair High School, and I also attended Strayer University while I operated my bookstore. I had a bookstore for 10 years here in Washington, D.C., and I took classes in the evenings because I needed to get some better understanding of my tax liabilities. I just thought that my accountant was taking way too much money. So I decided to go study accounting and small business management, which was perfectly in line with what I was doing. And that decision launched me into law school when I closed my bookstore in 2005. And I went to Houston, Texas, and attended Thurgood Marshall School of Law and became an attorney licensed in Texas, and moved to Georgia looking for opportunities because I graduated right at the cusp of, right at the start, really, of the recession. And so it was the first year that attorneys who went into school anticipating, a large legal career field opportunity, that was the first year that the rug was pulled from up under our feet. And so I found myself scrambling to survive with a law degree that was practically useless.
And wait, and so what year was this?
2009
sure.
was the year that I graduated. So I went into law school in 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that was literally, I got 20 years after I graduated from high school. So I graduated in 1995. So I've had 10 years of small business followed by like 10 years of law school. It seems like it was actually 3 years of law school plus the bar exam. But I've been on a real circular journey to get right back to Maryland to do the work that I feel like I was always put here to do. And every step along the way, even the ones that seemed completely unrelated, was absolutely pertinent to the experiences that I am assisting my clients with now. It's absolutely phenomenal, including the strategic planning work. One of the first things that the Creator put me in a position to do when I got down to Georgia was to develop a strategic plan, which was absolutely bizarre for me because I had never heard of the process really before. I didn't know what to do or where to begin, but I was presented with an opportunity by a behavioral health organization that was owned by a woman who attended a church that I frequented at the time. And basically, she thrust it in my lap and said, I need this in order to get my accreditation. You can do it. And I was baffled. I just was so confused. And I was like, God, I feel like I'm always trying to start to learn something new. I never get to use my current skills. And I was very frustrated. So as I dove into this work, I absolutely fell in love.
Okay.
It was the
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it was the missing link. And it was the ultimate confidence boost for me because Here it was, I was standing before a group of about 18 doctors, medical professionals, um, psychologists, all kinds of people who were masters in their field. And I knew nothing about their field, but I did the work, I did the prep work, and I studied the science behind strategic planning, just like she told me to do. And I presented a facilitation. I facilitated a strategic planning session, the first one, and it was so absolutely effective that they actually got their CARF accreditation, which is an international accreditation for behavioral health organizations. It has so many benefits to it. They get cheaper insurance, they get automatically considered by some of the top agencies in government for clients. And the first thing that the CARF organization mentioned was my strategic plan. So that was absolutely phenomenal for me. So then I did their next one. And then I started doing it for other organizations. And I just started using that skill wherever I went. I started using it in my teachings for the Urban League, for their courses. And I always knew that I was going to be an educator. I had always been one, even when I had my bookstore. But this was a different kind of a field. This just felt so professionally fulfilling, so spiritually fulfilling. And it was an opportunity to see real transformation happen. The results are phenomenal and it happens right away, especially if they implement it. So that was a truly phenomenal experience. So naturally, I ended up incorporating strategic planning in my personal life. I ended up incorporating it in the way that I raised my son, and the results have been phenomenal. My son is now 21. He is a man with a plan. He walks out of the house with a set of goals. If those goals can't be met, we go right back to the drawing board. And one of the things that I told him early on is, when you walk out of my house, son, you have to have a clear set of goals to accomplish. Even if that goal is to go see John down the street and play with him for 1 hour. Mm-hmm. If you get to John's house and find out that plans have changed and he's no longer there, you come back to the drawing board. You don't go wandering around in the street. And so that is still so critically a part of my message, even though now he is a man. And he embodies that. And all of these skills that I use for myself, that I use on him, I now use to help empower other women, particularly who my heart goes out to are women of African descent who often find themselves parenting alone, being alone, financing life alone, fighting through life alone, and trying to make their way through life successfully with their babies on their back, sometimes very much alone. So
right.
the
And
health
that,
piece and that strategic planning are the two biggest gifts that I have to offer women of African descent.
so I'm sorry, what was I heard about the strategic planning, and what was the other?
The divine health
The
piece, because
divine health.
you
Okay.
have to have both.
I'm just sitting here kind of in awe because you have just, I mean, from Maryland to Atlanta to Houston. Now you're back in the Maryland area. And I, had looked at your bio before and saw that you had a law degree, and then I saw the strategic planning. And I just think and then now learning that, because I don't think that was in your write-up about owning the bookstore, and I think that is so cool. But like you said, each of those pieces to the puzzle, so to speak, brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, they were all pivotal towards the work that the creator had for me, even the locations that I went to reluctantly. In every experience, I'm like, oh, now it makes sense.
Right. So when you talk about strategic planning, what exactly, how do you apply that to, because I know you mentioned to, everyday life, you apply it in your coaching business, how you work with women. So tell me just a little bit more about that. Like exactly, because I know that there's still a few questions out there for me. So I'm thinking that it's possible that some of the listeners may be kind of wondering about that too. So tell us just a little bit more in detail about how you apply that strategic planning to your coaching
Thank
business?
you for asking that question. There's a lot of confusion about planning, goal setting, strategic planning.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I should take credit for introducing personal strategic planning to the social media field because
Okay.
back in October, I put out a video and I said that October 21st is the day you really should start planning for the goals you want to implement beginning January 1st. Meaning, people who create resolutions on January 1st and expect them to be successful are often going to find themselves disappointed because they are missing strategy. And the strategy is the process that takes place 3 to 4 months before you actually plan on implementing something that you want to accomplish within the next 12 months to 24 months to 36 months, if that's your goal. And so strategic planning is what I call the missing and secret ingredient. It is not something that we as a people of African descent, the descendants of slaves, have been privy to. It is almost like a secret society. And we are familiar with it vaguely if we've ever had to fill out a survey in the workplace or attended a meeting, but oftentimes we are not at the board meeting room when the important decisions are being made. And so, because I had to learn strategic planning facilitation, I feel like this is something that the creator intended for my life to serve as a purpose to bring to the consciousness of my people that this is what you have been missing. In fact, all of the oppression that we have experienced is a direct result of the effectiveness of strategic planning. Meaning, when we see something happening in our community, in our lives, whether that's a grocery store or a fast food restaurant or a building, we are almost 10 to 20 years behind the meeting that took place that was going to establish when, where, how, and why. And
Okay.
so we become consumers, we become bystanders because one, we don't get to participate in the critical decision making. And that happens at a domestic level, it happens at an international level, it happens at a corporate level, it happens at a political level.
Okay.
My hope is that by introducing the concept to those who would be willing to work with me, I can extend to them the insights that I have gained about what strategic planning is and how it works for and against us as a people, particularly in this day and time, as so much is happening around us and so many distractions are taking place, and so many are losing their lives because they don't have access to this precious, this vitally important knowledge. And so, strategic planning in a nutshell is a set of steps that takes place prior to goal setting. When people say, I want to set a goal, that is one of the last things that occurs in the strategic planning process. So, what has to happen before someone sets a goal, for example? Strategic planning for businesses is really rooted in something called the art of war. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the ancient Chinese philosopher and strategist and war artist named Sun Tzu, spelled Suntzuu or Tsu, depending on which transliteration you're looking at. But he was a master strategist at war, and he wrote a book or he wrote a series of scripts that is now known as the art of war. Business aficionados have been able to translate some of the critical lessons from the art of war and translate those into business applications. Governments also do the same thing. Most people who are in business school understand that there are some basic principles that arise from the art of war, but it depends on your connections to the business school about whether or not you are going to get this deeper
The
insight.
deeper
It's like
understanding of
people,
it.
Yeah, you have people who attend church and they get the
Mm-hmm.
good word from the church, and then you have people who go deeper into the word and they become the pastors, and people who go deeper and they become even deeper. And so it's the same thing when it comes to business, when it comes to politics. Strategic planning is really the wife of all policy making and all of
Okay.
decision making internationally and around the world. So when businesses do it, what they end up trying to do is assess what is going on in their environment, their competitors. They want to know what their what's called the SWOT, their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Those represent both the internal strengths and the external threats that are in the environment that often operate to either prevent them from achieving their bottom line, which is usually their goals of making a certain profit, or furthering those things.
Okay.
You also hear things like a mission and a vision. All companies have them. We're familiar with mission statements like McDonald's mission. Some people don't know that McDonald's has a mission, or that Google has a mission, or that they're familiar more so with the slogans, right?
Right.
Just do it. But Google, for example, wants to be the one resource that the world goes to for all information. I'm not quoting them verbatim, but that's
Right.
like their mission. And so all of the things that you see happening around Google are stemming from that big mission.
Okay.
So individuals also have personal missions and personal visions that drive all their decisions. And also you need to know what your values are. So
Hey, you know what? Real quick. So, what is McDonald's mission? Because you're right. I never really thought about it. Like you said, I'm familiar with the slogans, but what's
I
their
believe
mission?
I believe McDonald's missions is stated to be the number one fast food restaurant of choice
Okay.
for America's
Okay.
people, something like that. It's
Okay.
very,
Something
very
along
big
those
on that.
lines. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your mission statement is often a very broad statement. It's like
Okay.
something that you're aiming for, whether it's realistic or not, right?
Okay.
But your mission statement is like a broad, large goal that's associated with an even bigger vision. Like your
Okay.
vision might be a world where all children have a meal. Like that might be have
That's good.
food to eat on a daily basis. Like a
Okay.
world where everyone has access to social media or
Okay.
something like that. So your vision is your large world vision for the world. I don't like to use the same word, but it's like your large world hope. Like what is
Okay.
it that you really want to accomplish, right?
Okay.
And so going through businesses, they're very clear about aligning all of these things, getting them clear, and trying to get all their employees in alignment with their mission, their vision. And then from these things, they decide what their priorities are going to be. And what they need most, and what we are least effective at, is getting data. We
Okay.
don't analyze data in our personal businesses, and we don't analyze them in our lives. And
Okay.
so, how would you get data for a business? Well, you look at the historical records, you look at the sales, you look at the expenditures, you look at the past forecast versus the actual forecast. That's how you do it in business, right? And so, when you have to file your reports at the end of the month, if you're an accountant, or all of these
Mhm.
all of the systems that businesses have in place are designed to get this data, to analyze this data so that they can make forecasts about what to do and decide
Right.
what their priorities are going to be. And then from there, they begin to set their goals. And then they communicate it at some level to the public, who are their stakeholders, their customers, your family. In a personal sense, who are your stakeholders? That would be your family, your customers. All kinds of people can be your stakeholders in a personal life. So my job is to translate some of those very profound and very beneficial business concepts into the personal life. And I do that through an introductory level for people who really never had to do this at a personal level. I do it through my 2020 Accelerator Plan program.
Mm. You know what? Just even hearing that kind of overwhelms me a little bit.
Yeah, it's not very
So
sexy. It's not a sexy thing. It's
no,
definitely not as sexy as some of the other things that I'm
but
doing.
necessary, right?
That is,
Okay.
but it's necessary, absolutely.
So in terms of, well, okay, two things. And, people that watch me all the time know that I try not to butt in, but, I do have senior moments where I may forget. So if you see me, doing like that, it's like I really want to say something. I'm trying not to interrupt you. But okay, so two things. One, when you mentioned that the goal, and again, this is not, I'm just paraphrasing it the way I thought I heard it, right? Is that the goal, when you decide to set that goal, that is like the final step, that there's a lot of planning before that, right? That
Mm-hmm.
happens before you set that goal. And just that I'm like sitting here and I'm trying to wrap my brain around that. It makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
but I never really thought of it like that. You know,
Well, you have to be in that industry in order to understand that. And so one of the things I can tell oftentimes when people kind of, you know, social media is an interesting thing because people are so lacking in creativity. I
okay.
often find, and sadly, I see that concepts that people don't fully understand, if they hear it and it sounds good, they take it and run with
And
it.
run with it. Yeah.
Right. So I can always tell people who've been influenced by something that I've said around this strategic planning movement because they instantly start to run with it and they say, let's start setting goals, everyone, before 2020. And I know that because I will say things to spark interest and to see what's going to happen. And also, I'm sensitive to the fact that this is new to people. But I know I can always tell someone who's a seasoned strategic planner versus someone who is just kind of running with a concept or an idea. Because one of the first things you don't do is have someone set their goals. They don't know what goals they have. It's almost like saying start your resolutions. They're
Right.
not going to get accomplished because how do you set a goal? What
Right.
exactly is a goal? And how do you go about determining what goals to set your marks for? For
So
example, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
now I was going to say that I'd love to have you on again just to even talk about that part.
Mhm.
I mean, do you agree with me?
Yeah, yeah,
Because I
yeah.
mean, I'm the title that what you're going to be discussing today has like blown, I'm so excited. I mean, I really, I'm really excited to hear you, pour into the audience. Um, but I have a lot more questions about that because I just think that I would love to have you on again and talk about that and have you talk a little bit more in detail about that because from what you're telling me now, I mean this is like, right? I mean that's like a separate topic in itself,
Oh, yeah, it
you
is.
know,
It
right?
is.
Because
It is.
I
And we can definitely do that because that's the work that the creator put me here to do. I'm a very strong proponent in the fact that you are here and you have a
yeah,
specific gift to give, and all of your experiences up to this point have led you to this moment where
today,
you can
yeah.
give your gift to the world. I am a big fan of Pastor Miles Monroe, Dr. Miles Monroe, and I can when he speaks on his gift in all of these concepts. These are strategic planning. He was a master strategic planner. And you know what's
Hmm.
amazing? Queen Mother Harriet Tubman was a master strategic planner.
Hmm.
You know who else
Okay.
was? Queen
Cool.
Mother Harriet Jacobs. I study these greats because when you are in strategic planning, you
Hmm.
study the big names that are usually a part of corporate America, right? You're
Okay.
going to study some of these major icons from the
Okay.
60s and 70s who are out there. They've got all the books out and things like
Hmm.
that. But because of my spiritual work, because of my unique position as a woman of African descent and a daughter of the Most High, who is always listening for the voice of the Creator, I had to find the strategic planners that were relevant to my experience
Right. That
in
makes,
order for it to make sense to me.
yeah.
And it came to
Like
me
that.
that Queen Mother Harriet Tubman was a master strategic planner. This was a woman who had a clear mission. She knew exactly what she was here for. She had a vision. For example, let's say Queen Mother Harriet Tubman had the privilege of being in 2020 and having a facilitation happen, right? And so her facilitation would sound something like this. So, Queen Mother, tell me what your mission is. My mission is to free all enslaved people of African descent. Very clear
Mm.
mission. Her vision might be like this: a world where every African person, man, woman, and child, has the ability to live their lives to the fullest capacity. That would be her vision statement. Her values, very clear. The Creator will always be there to give me the resources that I need. Every person is entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm entitled to death if I'm not entitled to freedom. I will sacrifice food, clothing, and shelter in order to achieve my goals. There is nothing that I should ever fear besides the Most High. This is her values, right?
Wow.
So then you would hear her talk about her objectives. You know, Queen Mother was a master fundraiser. She had these amazing stories where she also had intuitive guidance. And so Queen Mother Harriet Tubman would get a word from the Most High that said, go visit Sir Williams in Boston. He has 20 or $200 for you, which, you know, might be 2,000 for us in this day and time. And so she would just go and she would say, I need some money. And the person might say, what made you come over here? And she said, I know you have something for me. And he would say, well, I do have something for you. Ironically, I got a letter from the women, the lovely ladies of Freedom Hall in England, sent actually, you know, $300 for you. And I've been waiting for you to contact me. And so her biography, the one by Sarah Bradford, is full of these amazing stories. But she would also press people. She went into one man's office, one of the empathizers, so to speak, and said, I need $300 or I need $20, whatever the equivalent of that is. And he said, I'm sorry, I don't have it for you. And she said, I'm not going to leave here until I get it. You have it for me. And she refused to leave until she got it. And she did it at the risk of her own life, because
Risk of her own
this was
life.
after the Recapture Fugitive Slave Act came out. So you talk about a woman who was born to do what she was born to do and who knew exactly what she has. When they say the God of Moses, I say that's my God. The God of Moses, Harriet Araminta Ross, is my God. I don't care what you say, because she had a relationship. If you don't believe in the Most High after reading Queen Mother Harriet Tubman's story, and you know what else, how she ties into my work intimately, is because of her stance on food. So I have this concept, I'm sorry for bouncing around so much, but it's also interrelated. Remember, the divine health is an important prong. Can you imagine if Queen Mother Harriet Tubman suffered from emotional eating? How many of us are the descendants of the people she might have helped to escape freedom? Can you imagine? She had every reason, just like so many of our other ancestors, to try to eat their way through their suffering. It was possible to do. But Queen Mother Harriet Tubman had a real position, a powerful position about food that it only comes from real clear discernment of reading her story. So when she was approximately, and if I get too off course, just let me know, we can come back around. When she was about 8 or 9 years old, she was hired out to the Brown family. And they were so abusive to her physically. I mean, they just beat this poor baby so badly. She was terrified to be in front of them, be with them. I mean, just nervous wreck. She had the scars that she had as an adult came mostly from this particular family on the back of her neck. And so there's one story about how Queen Mother Harriet Tubman was offered sweet milk by the woman who did the most beatings to her. And she refused to accept that milk. And I say to my students in my course on how to overcome emotional eating, you don't realize what Queen Mother Harriet Tubman knew at the really young age. And it was what I call contentiously prepared meals. You never eat from the hand of someone who has ill intent towards you. The food cannot have any nourishment for you. How does that relate to us in this day and time? Aside from even emotional eating, many of us go and subject ourselves willfully to the fast food establishments that don't respect us.
Mm.
And
Okay.
even though we have way more access to resources than Queen Mother Harriet Tubman did, Queen Mother Harriet Tubman refused to accept that milk, even though she was starving and probably emaciated,
Mm.
because she had such a powerful food dignity about her. And she was aware of the poison inherent in the intentions behind
Mm.
the person who is preparing your meal for you. I mean, if we studied Queen
Whew.
Mother Harriet Tubman as both a master strategist and as a woman who we need to get our resources from about fasting, Queen Mother Harriet Tubman fasted every Friday.
Mm. Okay.
She got that from her father, who was a
Okay.
man who lived off of the earth. He
Okay.
had more privileges than most because of his skill set. And so he oftentimes spent time in the woods because he was a skilled enslaved person. He had many skills. And so he taught Queen Mother Harriet Tubman about nature, about certain foods that she could eat in nature, about how to read the stars. And the other prong to her life, talk about journeys and experiences. Everything she experienced, from the beatings, were just training ground for the work that she was supposed to do. As cruel as it was, as painful as it was, the strength that she acquired.
Mm.
And then her mother was a cook, ironically, so she knew how to survive off of the earth. She
Okay.
knew how to look for sassafras and black cherry in the woods. I mean, that woman's story, we need to really take another look at it, because she's powerful. And she's a critical part of my course on divine health and how
Okay.
to overcome emotional eating, when we go through what I call the historical perspective.
Okay.
And another jewel, I call them my three Harriets. It's Queen Mother Harriet Jacobs. You remember the one who wrote Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Queen Mother Harriet Jacobs was a master war strategist. She
Mm.
hid in her former enslavers. She hid on his property for 7 years and convinced him that she was in New York by sending strategic letters to him, and had him flying all over the country trying to catch her. And she was right there on his property, 7 years,
Mm.
suffering in the attic
Mm.
of her mother's home. So
Mm.
we have some powerful strategic planners, some art of war strategists that we can
Mm.
use to fuel our businesses, to educate our children, and to keep ourselves humbled about what we think we are struggling with. It's
Right.
just incredible.
Right. You know what? Just and I'm like all off the cuff right now too. But who is this in the picture right behind you?
Oh, that's my other master strategist. This is Queen Mother Fannie Lou Hamer.
Fanny. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Very important towards our struggle with divine health, because a lot of people know her for her civil rights movement, but what drove her into it was what's called the Mississippi epidemic. I always struggle with this word. I think it's pronounced epidemic, or forgive me for butchering it, but you can Google it. She went into the hospital to get a specific procedure done, and she left out of the hospital with her womb removed.
Right.
They took
Okay.
her a reproductive ability away from her when she went into the hospital for a simple procedure.
Okay.
Yeah, so that drove her into the forefront. Again, all of the experiences that we have are preparing us for the work that we were put here to do.
Wow. Okay. So let's shift. There are usually a couple other questions that I ask, but I want you to be able to talk a little bit more about your topic, and then kind of like, maybe while you're doing that, maybe, I can kind of put them out there, or maybe at the end.
Yeah, no.
But go ahead and get into your topic, which is my journey to divine health and how it propelled me towards discovering and actualizing my divine purpose. And I know you've kind of touched on it,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to definitely make sure you have ample, opportunity to be able to talk to us more about your topic.
Yeah, and so if you go to my website, SheilaBrownSpeaks.com, you'll get some clues about what divine health is. I defined it there and I defined it earlier. But how I got to this place of needing to even study divine health and get to that definition was back in March of 2016, before I decided to do a 60-day juice fast. I was weighing about 300 pounds, and I was suffering from so many ailments. And one of them, I believe, was suffering from an impending heart heart attack based off of the symptoms that women often have when about to have a heart attack. I mean, I could barely breathe when I had to walk from my desk to the restroom. I was breaking out in sweats. I was having this unimaginable pain in my shoulder, but it was more like a sensation than a pain, but it nagged at me all day long. And then I was also having these, of course, I was having problems with all of my joints, but it was just pain with sleeping, pain everywhere. And I was just becoming so physically miserable that I could no
Okay.
longer ignore it.
Okay.
Now, how I got up to that weight was probably unconsciously because I was dealing with what I think so many Black women are dealing with all over this country and maybe all over the world. I don't know. But definitely in this country, because of the war on African men of African descent, Black men, we are left to deal with raising children, being women to responsible for the financing and protecting of our home oftentimes, and we have to do it alone. And that leads to a very deep and very um, eh, all pervasive kind of loneliness. I mean, it's economic loneliness, it's romantic loneliness, it's spiritual loneliness, it's all kinds of lonely. And I honestly believe, although I will do my best to prove it throughout the course of the rest of my life, it's such an outlandish statement, but I believe all disease in women of African descent is rooted in loneliness,
Rooted in
especially.
loneliness. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, it drives so many of the behaviors that we engage in compulsively, whether it's gambling, whether it's overeating, whether it's eating emotionally or compulsively, or engaging in sexual activity compulsively, or doing all of the related activities that take away from us as daughters of the Most High, that strip us of our health, of our dignity, of our sanity, even. Um, so at this point where my son turned 18, I had purchased a cake for him. We were locked in a storm. It was this big snowmageddon that was happening in the DC area. It was January of 2016. And I purchased a big, beautiful birthday cake for him because I wanted him to feel special, even though we were going to be alone. And so I got to a place where he sliced a piece of cake for me, and something came over me and said, That's not for you. And I was surprised, and he was surprised. It's like, Mom, you're not having cake? And I was like, Yeah, I'm not going to have any. And I was really dealing with these feelings, these uncomfortable feelings, not sleeping well, and all of these things. And I knew something was about to shift in my life, but I didn't know what. And I was really a recluse at this point. I really didn't want to be with people. I didn't want to go out. I just did enough to go to work. And then my pleasure came from the weekend of being home with a movie. I rationalized everything. I was not spending a lot of money going to the movies. I would just
Mm-hmm.
rent a movie. But the power of the day came for me. The real excitement came when I was getting ready to watch my movie. And I would surround myself with all the luxuries one could expect to accomplish in one bed setting. I would have popcorn, yogurt, maybe
So,
ice cream.
but let me ask this: how did you get there though? How did you get to that place where you kind of were like a recluse and wanted to be by yourself?
I think it was because I had put on so much weight and I wasn't even
Okay.
aware of it. You know
Okay.
how sometimes there are people who look good in their clothes or they still function, and then they've done us a great disservice with all these stretchy materials. So
Right.
you can see one of your favorite celebrities wearing something and you can go get a version of that, and she's a 12 and you're a 28,
Uh-huh.
So whatever they make for the woman who's a 0, they make it for the woman who's a 32. And so you have this almost this illusion that you look a certain way in your mind. Like, it wasn't until I started to lose the weight that me and my son realized, oh my God, look how big I was. We just didn't realize how large I had gotten. And he would even say funny things like, "Oh, Mom, you're not fat, you're fluffy." But the pain was no longer allowing me to be in denial, like this not getting sleep, not being able to sleep on any side. I mean, my breasts were so big, when I would lay down on my back, I felt like I was suffocating, like someone had put
Mm.
a layer of bricks on my chest. And when I lay on my side, I was experiencing all kinds of pains. I mean, it was coming at me in every direction. I was swelling in my body. And I ended up realizing that I was allergic to everything. So the irony was that on this day in particular, and it happened to be my son's 18th birthday. So I think that was significant for me because 18 was a significant age in my life as well, with things that were happening and transitionings that were going on. And so here I was in this place. And I remember I laid on my bed and I took a picture of myself and I looked at it and I said, who is this woman? Like, I didn't even recognize the face that was in the picture. And as I was sitting there really about to go into a dark place, I got a phone call from a sister here who is a health and fitness expert named Dallas. We call her Dr. Dallas. And she called me accidentally, she thought. And she asked for me by name. And I was like, Dallas, this is so crazy that you would call me. And she was like, oh, Sheila? And she's like, oh, I got the wrong Sheila. I was like, no. You got the right Sheila. I'm going to set up an appointment with her. And so I set up an appointment with her, and she did this test on me to see if I had food allergies. And we came up with a really bad diagnosis. And so she got me doing some things differently. I was still eating a lot. But I was eating healthier. I was doing more fruit and vegetables. And so things started to naturally shift for me. You know, I started to feel better. I started to cleanse a little bit better. And I have to give her credit because she was the first person to say to me, you need to do a 60-day juice fast. That fat will just fall off of you. And I was like, that's crazy. I'm not doing that for 60 days. That sounds crazy. And so I just, dismissed it. But as fate would have it, I had invested in a juicer, just like she had told me to incorporate some juices. I was experiencing better health, but I was still emotionally eating. I was eating compulsively. I mean, I would have so much of everything because I was bored. I was unfulfilled with my work, and I was unfulfilled with my personal life. And so while I was experiencing some improvement, I still had this issue that was coming up. Well, a documentary came out and I saw it, and I got to see what happens when you fast for 60 days on juices. And I was like, wait, that's all that you got to do?
Yeah. What happens?
Oh my gosh, your body just does some incredible things. Fasting in itself is, I believe, a gift from the Most High for health. When you fast, one of the benefits is you trigger something called human growth hormone, which is the hormone that allows us to go from age 0 to 18 and develop the fastest and the quickest and the largest that we will ever develop in our lives, right? You grow rapidly and very largely from an infant to an 18-year-old. But then after around 1822, the human growth hormone starts to fall off. Well, when you fast, it gets triggered, and it is responsible for the effective burning of fat when you are an adult. And so fasting, that's one of the benefits. One of the other benefits of fasting is that your body goes into this kind of survival mode, like during prehistoric times. It starts to recognize this period in humanity, in the human experience, where food is not readily available. And so your eyes become more sharp, you get better vision, your hearing gets better, your senses gets better, and your body goes into this high energy mode, because it's almost like you're going back into this evolutionary period where you have to be alert to look out for food. You have to be able to recognize something that's edible. And so your body also goes through that process. And so you become more efficient at burning fat, but you also get more energy. So people who go into fasting for long periods have high levels of energy. And it's just the opposite. You don't necessarily feel hunger, but your body is saying, okay, we're in a drought. We need to go find food. She needs energy. And so you get these major benefits. Your mental clarity comes. And then what also happens is your body starts to eat the fat reserves. That is what the fat is supposed to be stored for these times where there is lacking. So it's a whole bunch of wonderful, yes.
Okay, so during this time of fasting, because I know the first thing that comes to my mind is, I'm going to be hungry, I'm going to be weak. So during these times of fasting, let's say you're doing the 60 day, are you still like, because I work out like 5 days a week. So like, would I still be working out during that time? And like, does it like, what type of an impact does a person's menstrual cycle have on that? Like, you know what I mean? Are there any adjustments or modifications that need to be made while your body is going through this period?
I say listen to your body. I
Okay.
did exercise while I fasted,
Mm-hmm.
especially on my first one. In fact, you have so much energy, you have to do something with it. So I was walking during the fast, and I had some girlfriends, and we would do more extensive walks, and then we would, do really fast walks, and then we would sometimes do squats and do these incorporate other things and weights.
All
So
those
yes,
fun
you
things.
absolutely can exercise, but you the difference between just a pure fast and a juice fast is that really you kind of are still eating,
Okay.
but the juicer is doing all of the digestive process for you.
Okay.
So you are giving your internal organs a break.
Okay.
This is a juice fast. And I'm not talking
Juice
about
fast.
pineapple juice, not necessarily fruit juice. I'm talking about a very specific kind of
Okay.
vegetable formula.
Okay.
What I equate it to is a divine healing,
Okay.
that you flood your cells with this pure green earth fluid that contains all of the nutrients and vitamins your body needs, and you are flooding your cells with these, and it's like an internal washing of the cells. And as this process is happening, and your body is in this relaxed state because it doesn't have to digest the vegetables that you're consuming,
Mm-hmm.
your body is able to repair itself. It begins to heal. And it also, because of the food fast that you're doing, your body starts to eat off for energy damaged cells.
Mm.
The
Okay.
damaged cells that are in your body, the defective cells, that's
Okay.
the first things that gets consumed. So your skin starts to clear up, your energy, your eyes get brighter, and all of these amazing things happen. And then you just start shrinking. I mean, I
Okay.
literally went from about 300 pounds to about 242, I think is what I dropped about 60 pounds, 57 to
Within 2 months?
Yep, within 2 months. The
But a
60
lot of that too is like water weight too, right?
water weight, toxins that are in your body,
Okay.
but definitely fat. I mean, I came down
Okay.
some dress sizes, and I was so shocked because I had to go buy some clothes. I couldn't, the clothes that I had in my closet were so big, and I just didn't even realize what's happening. But the people who were around me were seeing it. Everybody started juicing. All my girlfriend coworkers started juicing. They was like, whatever she's doing.
Right. Let me
Honey,
do it. What you doing? Let me know so I can start it. I'm going to the store right
whatever I'm
now.
juicing. And so for me, it became such a vital part of my spiritual health as well, because you also build spiritual muscle during fast. And
Okay.
so, because oftentimes we as Black women deal with so many things that I consider unnatural phenomena, it could be things that are in our collective environment, like when we see someone's child get slain for no apparent reason, right? That affects you as a mother, that affects me as a mother. It affects us in such a deep way that it affects our psyche and our spirit. And so then when your personal life, sometimes traumas come up, like me and the loss of my brother. I just attended his funeral yesterday. These kind of not natural occurring deaths, these kind of, even transitional housing situations that often occur with sisters, just a lot of things associated with being the only financial source of income for yourself and your family. It's very heavy work on the mind, body, and spirit. And we have to have some tools that we use to protect ourselves, to build up our spiritual immunity and our physical immunity. And what I have found to be effective is, besides exercise,
Mhm.
besides staying hydrated, is doing fasting on a regular
I was
basis.
just going to ask you that. So how regular do you do it? And is it always a juice fast? And is it always 60 days?
Oh, no, no, no. I did the 60 days because I did 60 days twice
Okay.
because I was 300 pounds, and I was really you don't need to do a 60-day juice fast. In
Okay.
fact, you should juice every day. You don't even have to fast. You should incorporate juicing as a part of your what I call defensive eating strategy, because there are
Okay.
so many toxins in our environment and in the foods that we eat, that we need to be cleansing and protecting ourselves and strengthening our immune system on a regular basis.
Okay.
Um, In my course on how to overcome emotional eating, I teach women to create a food calendar and to understand your food story. We have a food cycle that we need to look at on an annual basis, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, and on a daily basis. On a daily basis, you may incorporate something called intermittent fasting. This is something we all do naturally when we go to sleep at night. We don't eat. And when we wake up, we have our first meal. Intermittent fasting allows you to take more conscious control of that and say, let's say that your first meal isn't until noon because you're not hungry first thing in the morning. It's not wrong to skip that breakfast meal because your body is smarter than the commercialism that tells us breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I don't necessarily disagree with that. The issue is when to eat breakfast. Breakfast simply means to break your fast. So you could have your break fast at noon and be perfectly healthy. And in fact, if you eat on what's called a 16-8 ratio, which means you fast for 16 hours and eat for 8 hours out of the day, that's a very powerful rhythm to get on for eating that is very consistent with fasting principles, and it gives you many of the same benefits that develops human growth hormone. And it triggers so many other wonderful things like boosted energy, self-control, self-discipline, and your immune system, because especially if you couple intermittent fasting with a plant-based diet, then the results are going to be incredible.
Look at you over there. You like, whoo, like y'all just don't know like how incredible this is.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with some heavy stuff in my life, and I would tell you one of the reasons why I'm so good at managing stress is because these tools that I've incorporated into my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I know for a fact that I have an annual fast that I do for 30 days. That's going to be the month of March because I initiated my first 60-day juice fast in the month of March. And I'll tell you that I gave myself a very realistic timeline in order to meet my goals, which was to get down at the time. My ideal weight I thought was 165, but because my body has gone through so many changes, that's not necessarily the best look for me. So with increased muscle mass and some fats, I have determined that I'm better suited for 180 to 185. And that's a personal decision that I make. But what I will say is that I gave myself 2 years to get to my desired goal. And I did it in 15 months with 2 60-day juice fasts and switching to a plant-based diet and exercise. It's incredible, plus intermittent fasting. These are things that are available to every person right in your environment. And as a result of that, you talk about divine purpose. I ended up writing 2 books, one of them being a cookbook and one of them being a book about what I have discovered about what I call divinely prepared meals.
Okay.
Now, divine health lends itself to divine purpose. You cannot have one without the other. In fact, I view our bodies as divine machines given to us as a loan from the Most High to fulfill our divine purpose. You can't do much of anything on earth without this divine machine. So once you recognize that this is a real machine, you then say, I need to follow the owner's instructions. There is a reason why the Most High instructs us to fast. It is medicine. It is healing. It's a powerful mechanism. And it is because of fasting that we have so many powerful ancestors who overcame oppression, like Queen Mother Harriet Tubman and Queen Mother Harriet Jacobs. Food was just not a priority when it came to freedom.
Right. You know what? Let me ask you this. I know you did the you did the cookbook, right? And so, well, I'm sorry, scratch that. Give me, because I just want to put it in the comments now. Give me your web address, and is there a specific site that I could put into the comments if they wanted to obtain your book?
Yeah. So
okay, I'll type it in.
I have a free ebook on my website called Divinity Soup, an Ancestor-Inspired Recipe starring collard greens. And in that book, I introduced the concept of divinely prepared meals, which is when you are very intentional about your cooking. In other words, I've discovered that there are two sides to human hunger. There's a physical side that we substantiate or satiate with the physical food when we ingest it and digest it. It gives us a full feeling. But it is the intentions of the person preparing the meal that addresses the spiritual side of our hunger. That's the part that makes us feel loved and fulfilled and content with just what we've eaten. And sometimes that happens even when you haven't had the best of ingredients in your food. Because let's say your grandmother who loves you makes you a wonderful dish and you feel so good after eating it. You just feel loved. You feel energized afterwards. That's a divinely prepared meal that was made by someone who loves you and intended for that food to nourish your body and your spirit, whether she was conscious of it or not. But the opposite end of that is someone who goes willingly into let's say, a Chinese restaurant located in a poor community, a so-called Chinese restaurant. And you go in there, there's a brazen kitchen, there is a bulletproof barrier, there's someone with a blank stare on their face, and they say, your order. And you expect them, a person who puts a barrier like you're an animal because they don't trust your humanity, to then hand you human food to fulfill your human hunger. You're insane if you think that that person has a human being in mind when they are preparing your meal. That's just not, you can't expect for them to honor your human needs. You're very much like an animal to them, probably a dog or worse. And so to hand that person your money expecting to get a divinely prepared meal, right, it's not a realistic expectation.
Right.
And everyone should have an anticipation of eating a divinely prepared meal. Well, why are we not eating more divinely prepared meals? Why are we not cooking more? Largely, it's because of this fast food trend that started back in the 60s when the Honorable Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And there were some 300 riots that took place in urban cities that were destroying not only the government's resources, but the communities and the businesses that weren't owned by people of African descent. But it had a horrible impact on our communities. And so Lyndon B. Johnson was set to address this issue, and he put together a task force that was supposed to look at what needed to happen in these urban ghettos, was their language, in order to start to recompense the environment. And so that task force came back and said, hey, I got a good idea. They need economic opportunities. Go figure. So the solution that came about was, we're going to inundate them with franchises, but not just any franchises, fast food franchises. So if you analyze the historical data, and there was a study that was done that showed that in the 60s, Black people were twice as likely to get the nutritional value that they needed from their meals than white people. Because our staple diets, though we weren't rich, consisted of okra, squash, sweet potatoes, and collard greens, or some kind of a green. Fast forward to 30 years later in the 90s, and the exact opposite was true. Why? Fast food restaurants. Lyndon B. Johnson's task force, started and led by the founder and owner of Dunkin' Donuts, inundated the Black communities while simultaneously giving us crack cocaine. It was the deadliest recipe, and it took the Black woman out of the kitchen. It took the Black family away from the table, and it had such a negative repercussion on our health that you see obesity is synonymous with Black womanhood. Some 60% of Black women are considered chronically obese today. And that is strategic social engineering. It is not a part of some cultural tendency. It's not. It is strategic. And then what makes it so deadly, Queen, is the fact that today scientists are hired to prepare food. In fact, scientists for some of the most popular companies like Doritos and Cheetos and all these companies that we make and love their snacks, they put people in an MRI machine and scan their brains while they're eating these food products to determine what's the exact bliss point. Literally, Google bliss point. It's the point where a person gets addicted to food, and it's based off of the formula of sugar, salt,
Mm.
and fat, the combination, the exact combination that creates the certain response within the brain. You are not eating food, and chefs are not preparing your food. It is science, and it is mad food science. The only solution is to go back to eating and preparing our own whole foods.
It's so funny because when you put that, I put in bliss point food and like a picture of Doritos comes up and it says in the formulation of food products, the bliss point is the amount of an ingredient such as salt, sugar, or fat, which optimizes deliciousness. That's what they say.
The bliss point. It's a scientific formula to make people addicted to food. And so we are keenly aware of the unhealthiness of narcotics, of
So
illicit drugs.
you
But
know
we,
what? Okay, so we're definitely gonna, Jason, let me finish up, buddy. So we're definitely gonna have to have a part two if you don't mind.
absolutely.
But I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that. I'm sorry, my son just came here and kind of threw me off a little bit. Oh, give me your website.
Oh, SheilaBrownSpeaks.com. SheilaBrown.com. And I love the interviews, but I know I need to get on a circuit and really start doing presentations in different forums and churches. So if you know of any organizations that want to hear more on this topic,
Okay.
I have a whole talk that I do
Okay.
about divine health and the fast food impact, and an overview of my course. And
Okay.
then after we clear that up, we can start doing the work that we were put here to do, which is the strategic planning component. I can't get to the
Absolutely.
strategic planning when sisters are unhealthy.
Uh-oh, you know what? This isn't the right. Okay, I messed up here, but I'm going to correct it. So definitely, I would like to do a part two. Oh my God, maybe even a part three, because I want you to talk about the strategic planning and how you incorporate that, when you work with your clients.
Yes.
And also, I want to kind of talk about now that, we've gotten into talking about food and chemists preparing food and so forth. And I'm very interested to know what your take is on cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and the treatment of cancer and the frequency that is, happening, and especially amongst African Americans. I know with women, it's African American women, it's breast cancer. I know my mom passed of breast cancer. I've had breast cancer, so I, kind of would like to get a little bit more into that as well. So let me see. I'm putting your website in, and so what do I want to leave what do you want to leave everybody with? In terms of so just kind of just make sure you put in there, talk a little bit more or again about your program,
Okay.
and how, and specifically who you help and how you help them and where they can find you.
Okay. Before I do that, there's a book that I want every Black woman to read and every person who loves a Black woman to read. And it's a book by my third Harriet Washington. She's our contemporary. She wrote a book called Medical Apartheid. I can't remember the subtitle, but that is an absolute must. We have to come up with our own curriculum for raising ourselves and our children. And I discuss this thoroughly in my course on how to overcome emotional eating. I have two gifts to offer the world. My first gift at this point is the journey to divine health, particularly helping women overcome emotional eating. There are three types of emotional eating. So before you hesitate and jump in and say, I don't do emotional eating, I got my eating under control, there's three types of emotional eating. The one that people often think of is the negative impulse emotional eating.
Mm-hmm.
That is what my course is really designed to address, because there are so many things that affect our relationship with food, and it's not just our internal cultural habits. There are some external things in our environment. For example, we've mentioned one of the popular fast food chains, that da 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 da. They spend billions of dollars a year on these commercials, the same commercials over and over again. There is a reason for that. Those are prompts in your environment that trigger you to go and engage in behaviors that are not necessarily on your agenda. But if you don't have an agenda, if you don't have a food plan for your day, for your week, for your month, you're likely to be susceptible to that. So my course on how to overcome emotional eating is about teaching you how to become conscious of your relationship with food and how to dominate. You are a daughter of the Most High, and it is your job as a daughter of the Most High to employ all of the resources that are available to you for free. That's intermittent fasting, juicing fasting, prayer, exercise, meditation, positive affirmations, and having a plan in place for living your best and fulfilling purpose in life. And so my course is very powerful. And in many ways, the women who are taking it are saying it's like a rites of passage for Black womanhood. You need to be equipped with the knowledge that no one is telling us, but everyone knows outside of us is happening. The fact that 60% of women of African descent in this country are obese is a design. It is strategically planned that way. Just the same way 60% of Black women could be millionaires if there were a plan, but it's no plan for that. So you have to recognize what's happening in our world, where you fit in with it, and where you need to take your own health into your own hands. You have to become knowledgeable about disease and about disease prevention. You need to become knowledgeable about the things that are operating in your environment and why. You have no say-so over the new restaurants and new establishments that are coming into your community, but you will be the consumer or the victim of those things. You need to figure out what's happening in your environment and why. And so the second prong of my gift to the world is strategic planning at a personal level. Every single one of us has values, a mission, a vision, and a purpose. We might not know what they are because we haven't been taught to consciously move in that way. But I'm here to change all of that. And I have a very powerful program that is extremely accessible and very affordable to people of all walks of life. If you humble yourself, if you open your mind and allow me to share with you, I have the 2020 Accelerator Plan program. If you go to my Instagram page, which my handle is at Sheila Brown Speaks, and click the link in my bio, you can make an appointment. I will be setting it up so you can make an appointment on my website very soon, but do that. Those are the things that I have to share with you, and they are powerful, transformative, because I am here as a solution creator. I know what the problem is. You know what the problem is. I don't need to exaggerate it. There are 1,000,001 Black scholars who have told you what the problem is, but I'm interested in the solutions. And I have two very powerful ones. They have worked on me. I am a living testament for divine health. I have lost 135 pounds and maintained it. I have overcome emotional eating. I now teach other women how to do it, and I do it in a way that is relevant to the Black woman's experience. We cannot address any diet without addressing our historical relationship with food. Our relationship with food began as early as 1619, possibly earlier, and it was a negative one. Food was used as a tool of oppression for our people. It was used as a tool to humiliate, to dehumanize, to suppress, to punish, and to sometimes divide. So we have to put that in perspective as we move forward with trying to figure out, why are we not successful on the beach diet? Why are we not successful on our intermittent fast? Why are we not? We need to understand our food story, both collectively and individually. And I will take you on a series of 6 weeks of journeys and milestones and very powerful insights that could only have come from the Most High, through a daughter of the Most High, to share these insights with you. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and my website, SheilaBrownSpeaks.com. But the best way to reach me is Instagram.
Okay. Oh, okay. I don't know. Do we follow each other on Instagram?
I've started following you. I didn't know you
Oh.
were on Instagram, but I did look for you the other day and I found you. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
following you now.
Yeah, because I don't remember seeing any of your posts pop up. So I have to go back in and check. Okay. Wow, this has been very powerful. Well, thank you so much. So I put in the IG at Sheila Brown Speaks, and I put in your website, SheilaBrownSpeaks.com.
Yes.
And that way they can just go to that website, reach out to you, get the ebook, right?
Hmm. Get
And
the
that
free ebook. You can get the free ebook download from my website, and
okay,
that's the Divinity Soup. But if you want my cookbook, the purchase cookbook,
okay.
it's on Amazon, and it's called Sometimes Raw, Sometimes Cooked, Always Divinely Prepared, and it's about 21 vegan recipes to
Mm,
inspire the daughters of the Most High to eat healthy.
wow. You
So
know
these
what?
are gluten-free, plant-based recipes that I eat on a daily basis.
You know what? I want to put that in. This is my wrist is broken on my dominant hand, so I don't write as fast.
Okay, no problem.
But I really would like to put that in because I know so they can get the free download the free ebook off of your website, but
Hmm.
the other book they have to get it through Amazon.
Yes, and
Um.
both of them are the links to both of them can be found on my
Oh,
website.
okay. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. So I mean, this has been great, and thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
coming on and sharing this knowledge. And I'm really serious about doing a part two. We just kind of have to figure out what our part two is going to be, or like
Okay,
what we're going to focus that around, because you are just a wealth of information,
thank
and
you.
the time just flew by. And I
Yeah,
think we
look at
probably have
that.
like maybe a few more minutes, but I don't want to get into something. Well, you know what? I guess we have a couple more minutes, so I'll go ahead and ask you those questions. I usually ask, how do you practice good self care? I'm just trying to remember it, and then you can just kind of answer it in whatever order or however you want. But I normally ask, how do you practice good self care? Tell us something interesting about yourself. And what is the other one? Oh my God, because I don't have it right. It timed out on me. And I know you already talked about, well, that's at the beginning where we talked about obstacles and how you overcame it.
Mhm.
Really shared a lot of that with us. Oh, what advice would you give to a younger version of yourself?
So I'm cheesing because the self-care is a really, really important part of my life. Like we've touched on it briefly, but I have some exciting developments because in 2020, I am going to be providing personal self-care services to women in the DMV area. And it's just going to be completely transformative. This is not about a pedicure, it's not about a manicure or a facial. I have devised 4 primary self care strategies that I use to stay balanced in a very unbalanced world. I focus on 3 primary areas, really. Well, the first is what I call your head or your crown. I do an eye cleanse, an ear cleanse, and a mouth cleanse on a regular basis. I'm going to start teaching other women to do it, and I'm going to actually do it for them in a setting here in the DMV area. I'm working on that right now. I also do what I call centering work on myself, and I'm going to be doing the same thing for other women with vaginal steaming, what I call throne care. And then I do a lot of grounding work with my feet because your feet are such a powerful and important part of your body. And I work with essential oils to stay grounded so that when the world is moving around me in thunderous ways that I can't control, I plant myself in these processes that allow me to keep myself grounded. So the head is important because there's a spiritual component to everything physical, right? And there's a physical component to everything spiritual. In order to think clearly and in order to get clear vision, there is a visual aspect to that as well. Just like there's an internal aspect to vision. So when I'm working with people and they have blockage trying to establish what their vision is, I literally go to the eye because sometimes we need to really get an eye cleanse, physically eye cleanse. And I use a thermal heat process to do that. It's beautiful, it's relaxing, and it really does help you have a better, and also antibacterial, antiviral. There's ear work through ear candling that is a very spiritual component to it. In fact, the ancient Native Americans believed before doing any spiritual ritual that they had to cleanse their spirit, and they used ear candling. And ear candling not just removes wax and bacteria, but it also helps to make you feel balanced, because your ears are responsible for balance.
The
You know
balance,
that,
right?
right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have an ear infection, you feel wobbly. So
Mm-hmm.
your ears are a very important part of that. And so my self-care regimen has to do with maintaining my head. I don't necessarily go do facials and all of that, because the facial comes with juicing and the clear skin. But I
Okay.
do work on my eyesight, my mouth, keeping my mouth clean, and my ears clean. And
Okay.
when I go through this process, I have such an easier time doing critical thinking and
Okay.
getting divine insight. It's
Okay.
very much creative, because the physical body is a conduit for the Most High to help you facilitate your mission in life. So you've got to maintain it just like you maintain your car.
Right. That makes
You give
sense.
your car routine maintenance. You change your oil on a regular basis. You check
Mm-hmm.
your lights. You kick your tires. You fuel it on a daily basis. And that's a lesser machine than your body,
Right.
right? And so you would never put orange juice in your car. So you have to honor your body's needs for the right fuel as well. So the closer you stay to what I call the four elements, earth, fire, air, and water, with your food and with your habits, the closer you're going to be able to say, and the longer and the more quality of the life that you live. That's my self-care regimen.
Okay.
The
The other was, uh,
the other one was, what advice
oh,
I would give to my younger self.
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I would say to listen to the voice of the Most High. A no is a no for a reason. Pay attention to the obstacles that are in your way, because sometimes you may, a sister asked me this today. She said, how do you pray?
Okay.
What do you ask for? And so, because I know that the Most High is the master strategic planner, the best of planners, I don't worry about necessarily asking for things. I present my plans
Okay.
after having meditated and having aligned myself with what I believe are the intentions of the Most High.
Okay.
I will say, the Most High, Heavenly One, my intentions are to impact the lives of women. And I need, through my divine health course, specifically the one on how to overcome emotional eating. And I need resources in order to do this. And I know that this is in alignment with the purpose that you have for my life. So please reveal to me the resources that you have already put in my environment. Please show me the people and show me the best routes and many options to take, because I have learned the hard way as my older self through my younger self to stop asking for a specific thing,
Okay.
because a specific thing I might have an attachment to, but
Okay.
that person that I might like, or that car that I might desire, or that building that I might want, might not be the best option. So I have modified my thinking about asking.
Okay.
Instead, I say, this is consistent with what you put me here to do, Heavenly One. So please reveal to me the best route to take, because you are the best of planners. And I know if I present my plan with you in alignment with your purpose, then I will get success, because this is good for you, right? Because when I'm successful, people will look at me and say, wow, she's so successful. And she's always claiming to be a daughter of the Most High. And she's always claiming that the Most High is the best of planners. So, Heavenly One, you're going to get the benefit of making me successful, right? So, I
Okay.
think I'm entitled as a daughter of the Most High to consult, because
Okay.
I've seen so much happen in my life, and I know that there's no accident. Everything that I've experienced, even the things that I thought were taking me off course, like I want to practice law, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not why I gave you a law degree.
Right. Do
I
you
gave you
still
a law
practice
degree.
law now?
I work for firms at a very elementary and mundane level
Okay.
here. And I even believe that that was by design as well, so that I
Okay.
wouldn't get too attached to that career, because I
Right.
wouldn't have come up with a course that provides a solution
Right.
if I had been successful in what I want. But I will say that I have not thrown my law degree away because I do help people with bankruptcies. And my real life passion for going to law school was to become astute in estate planning. And
Okay.
after I can get women over their health issues and get into a
Yes.
mindset of divine purpose, then they have no recourse but to start looking at transitional life planning because
Right.
it's a natural extension of strategic planning. So
Right.
there, I'm right there, ready to fulfill that need.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot from you today. So, ladies, please, sorry, excuse me, please reach out to this sister and let her help you with, anything as it relates to eating, strategic planning. As you can see, she is a wealth of information. I have included her Instagram handle as well as her website. You can, reach out to her there, contact her, grab her ebook. There's also the link there for her book that's on Amazon. And actually, I'm going to be downloading that. And then at some point, I'm sure I'll get your book off of Amazon as well. So I have thoroughly enjoyed this. And stay tuned, ladies. We will do a part 2. And of course, as soon as we get it together and get it scheduled, we'll start, I'll let you know. So stay tuned for that. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Queen. Thank you so much for providing this powerful platform to allow women to share their gifts with the world and to connect with other queens who have similar mindsets. It's a very, very beautiful contribution that you're making, and that's very much appreciated. So thank you
Oh,
so
thank
very
you.
much.
I love it. And I love it. I feel that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yes, it's part of your divine purpose, and
Right.
you're very,
Yeah.
very good. You're a very excellent facilitator.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you.
I'm an all day learner, so I'm constantly learning.
Yeah,
So I
we're
reckon,
always learning, right?
yeah, you have to have a childlike mentality when it comes to learning new information. So I see that in you. You
Do
have a
you?
openness. Yeah, you still have an openness. Sometimes when we get our degrees and stuff, we feel like we can't learn anything from others, and it's
Yeah.
like the worst thing ever. But when I hear something that is really powerful, I'm like you. I'm like, that's deep.
No, I'm like, let me write
How
that
can I
down. And,
incorporate that? Yeah.
exactly. Because like you said, we're always learning. And
Mhm.
it's just amazing to me that how sometimes people just feel like okay, I've learned everything I need to know. I know everything I need to know. And it's, and to me, that's what life is about, learning. When you learn, you grow, right? Constantly, like you said, if you don't try something different or do something different, I mean, you never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
You never know where it's going to take you.
And you are doing such a powerful thing as well because there are a lot of people who are famous, so to speak, on social media because they're so excellent at highlighting these kind of um, sensational things that are occurring, events that are occurring, and giving their opinion on them. But then
Oh,
there are the few who actually come up with solutions to these issues, and they don't get as much attention because people are so sensationally driven. They want to hear something outlandish or see
mm-hmm.
something outlandish, and
Mm-hmm.
so this makes my job really difficult because it's hard to make something that is just naturally unintuitive and that has been hidden from us for so long, something sexy. It's so
Mm-hmm.
much easier to focus on, and not that some of the events that are happening shouldn't be focused on, but it's so much harder to compete with a woman who's selling health but through sexuality
Yeah.
and in a way that is not really beneficial to the people's
Right.
overall needs. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So these kinds of forums are extremely important. So please don't ever stop doing them because
Yeah.
there
I
are
so
some
agree.
there are some people who really want quality and divine information.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think is valuable is that people recognize what their gift is. Um,
Yeah.
I don't try to be a conduit for all knowledge and all information. I know what I'm here to do and what I'm very good at doing, and I kind of stick to those things. And I will direct people to other people who do something else well. But social media personalities are not like that. And when they have an audience of millions of people and then they hear something divine, like some of the things that I'm saying, instead of saying, hey, I was inspired by this Sister Sheila Brown Speaks over here to, move into this new movement of strategic planning, they start taking little sound bites and trying to impress their audience. And it really just becomes dysfunctional because they don't even offer those services to their audience. They just want to be able to say they heard it here first.
Right.
And so that makes my job even more difficult. But this work is divine that you're doing, and I appreciate it. And I know your audience does too, especially when you bring in quality information, quality people on,
Right.
like
Right.
you do.
Yeah, I really try. I really try. And I have to, I mean, I have to honestly say, I have met so many women and just had so many in-depth, thought-provoking conversations. And for the most part, I would say like 95% of the time, it has just been great. People have, come and they've shared their knowledge and their information. They might have gotten some leads from it. And, I've learned different things, so it's just, it's a lot of fun. And I find it very rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Very rewarding. So thank you again. So ladies, this again is A Queen's Roundtable Show, which happens every second and fourth Sunday of the month. I bring on a different entrepreneur and we just, we talk openly and honestly. And also, if you are unable to tune in, maybe, you have other responsibilities, other things that you're involved in on a Sunday, you can always catch the replay. Catch the replay. And definitely leave any questions or comments that you may have in the comments, okay? And we'll definitely, get back to you, okay? So feel free to do that as well. And again, Miss Sheila's information is in the write-up, so please feel free to reach out to her for some additional information. And again, thank you for tuning in. I'm Jacqueline Kabai Harrison, and I am your host of A Queen's Roundtable Show. So thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday afternoon. I know everyone is probably preparing for the holiday, whether you celebrate Christmas, whether you celebrate Kwanzaa, the kids are out of school. So it's going to be, a little different next week, and I'm going to be traveling soon. So everyone have a good holiday or, whatever you celebrate. And Miss Sheila, thank you so much, and you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much, Queen. I was trying to look up that term for that medical procedure. They coined a term for it for Fannie Lou Hamer because I always mispronounce it, but I think it's called Mississippi epidemiology, something that's like that. But it's when I find it, I'll send it to you so you can encourage your ladies to work it. But it was kind of what propelled her into it. They took her womb away. They took her reproductive organs away. And they were doing it so frequently that they came up with this term for it, where you go into the hospital for one thing and you come out with surgery.
Right.
Yeah, it's just really sorry. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name of it. It's a weird term, but yeah.
Okay, anyway, well, thank you. I would like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I said I would like that. I'll look out for that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll do that. I'm looking for it right now. It usually pops up even if you can't pronounce it or spell it right. But
it's because you're looking for it now.
Right.
But I'll definitely reach out to you though, Sheila, because like I said, I want to try to plan something for a part 2, okay?
Okay. Appendectomy. It's spelled APPENDECTOMY. And it's, they were doing this surgery so frequently on our people that it says she was given a hysterectomy, which was known as the Mississippi appendectomy. That's what it's called.
Okay. Gotcha.
It was just terrible that they were doing this to many Black women. They did it to other people too. But
could you imagine?
Yeah, you go into the hospital and she just might have needed to have her tonsils removed. It happened so frequently in the 60s. They deprived so many people of their life. But yes, it's the Mississippi appendectomy.
Okay.
Yeah, terrible.
Well, thank you so much. I don't want us to get cut off.
Okay.
All right. So have a good afternoon, and I'll reach out to you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you so much again.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Take care to your audience. Peace, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Talk to you soon.